Welcome, dear listener, to Whispers of the Night. We journey into a quiet, moonlit world where shadows hold secrets and even the stillest moments carry gentle stories. Our tale is Whispers of the Unseen Mask. In a small antique shop tucked away on a forgotten street, a young woman named Noira discovers a mask unlike any other one that does not hide but reveals. Through its delicate, silent whispers, she learns to see not the faces of the world, but the hidden currents of emotion beneath them. The unspoken ache of sorrow, the warm glow of kindness, and the gentle pulse of love waiting quietly in every soul. Tonight, let us walk alongside Noira through moonlit streets, bustling marketplaces, and a garden bathed in reflected light. Let us feel what she feels, witness what she sees, and understand the beauty of the unseen, the soft colors of longing, the tender threads of sorrow, and the quiet melodies of joy. Each whisper she hears becomes a lesson in empathy, a reminder that what we hide can also be beautiful. So, settle into a calm space. Let your shoulders relax and allow yourself to follow the path of gentle discovery. With every word, every quiet pause, every subtle note, let the world of whispers of the unseen mask unfold before your eyes and heart. You are here now, under the moon's soft gaze, listening, feeling dunned, becoming part of the story. Close your eyes and take a deep, slow breath in. Feel the air fill your lungs, carrying with it, and as you exhale, let every tension, every weight drift away into nothingness. With each breath, feel your body become lighter, softer, more at ease. Let your shoulders release, your hands rest loosely, and your mind settle like a still lake under the moonlight. The world around you fades gently, leaving only a quiet space, a sanctuary for your thoughts to rest. Imagine yourself in a quiet, serene garden, bathed in silver moonlight. The air is cool, gentle, and filled with the soft scent of flowers, delicate, calming, untouched by the rush of the day. Each petal shimmers faintly, reflecting a light that seems to come from within, soft and warm, inviting your mind to let go and simply exist. Listen closely to the night, a soft breeze rustling leaves, distant water murmuring in the background, the quiet hum of life moving gently in rhythm with your own heartbeat. With every sound, feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace, as if the world itself is rocking you softly, cradle-like, into calm stillness. Feel your thoughts drift like clouds across a vast, open sky, light, weightless, untethered. They move, but do not cling. They appear and fade, just as the breeze carries petals across the garden floor. You do not need to follow them, simply observe, breathe, and release. Now, feel a gentle warmth spreading through your body, starting at your chest, flowing slowly to your shoulders, down your arms, reaching your fingertips. Warmth flows into your back, your legs, your feet, a quiet glow that relaxes every muscle, every fiber, every cell. With each breath, this calm spreads further, deeper, until you are entirely enveloped in gentle peace. Picture a quiet pool of water nearby, perfectly still, reflecting the stars above. Step closer and notice your reflection, calm and serene, untroubled by the day's worries. With each breath, your mind mirrors the stillness of the water. Your heart sinks with its gentle rhythm. Your soul rests in its mirrored serenity. Now release all remaining tension. Let it dissolve completely. Let your body be heavy yet weightless, relaxed yet alert, perfectly present in this quiet moment. You are safe. You are calm. You are exactly where you need to be. Nothing rushes here. Nothing intrudes. Only gentle, nurturing peace surrounds you. Feel the night wrapping around you like a soft, comforting blanket, the cool, tender air, the faint scent of blossoms, the delicate shimmer of light on leaves and petals. Let this quiet serenity fill every part of you, every thought, every feeling, until your entire being is calm, balanced, and at rest. Breathe slowly, deeply inhaling peace, exhaling tension, inhaling calm, exhaling worry-ental. Each breath becomes a gentle wave, carrying you further into relaxation, further into a quiet sanctuary within yourself. The night is still, the world is hushed, and you are safe, serene, free to simply be. Stay here for a moment, in this stillness, letting the soft rhythms of breath, heart, and night carry you gently. Feel your body, your mind, and your spirit relax completely. You are embraced by calm. You are cradled by peace. And in this quiet, nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be said. You simply exist, calm, present, whole. Soft music lingers, slowly fading out to near silence, leaving only a gentle sense of calm and serenity. Whispers of the unseen mask, the shop of forgotten faces, in the quiet hush of a moonlit street, where the shadows of the old town stretched long and soft across cobblestones. Noira walked slowly, her steps measured and gentle, as though she wished not to disturb the sleeping world around her. The night was crisp but forgiving, the faint scent of damp earth mingling with the subtle aroma of old wood and distant flowers drifting from unseen gardens. Lanterns hung on wrought iron brackets, their flickering light casting warm circles that danced along the edges of alleyways, inviting her further into the silence. The world seemed wrapped in a gentle pause, as if time itself had chosen to linger here. In the forgotten corners of the city, Noira had always felt a quiet attraction to such streets, places where the ordinary brushed against the extraordinary, and tonight, the pull seemed insistent. It was not the usual curiosity that guided her steps, but something softer, almost like a whisper, tugging at the edge of her consciousness. Her long black hair swayed lightly with each step, its silky strands brushing against the high collar of her coat. Her hazel eyes, calm and reflective, traced the shapes of buildings worn with age, their facades quietly etched with stories that no one now remembered as she wandered. She noticed a small shop tucked between two taller structures, its wooden sign swinging faintly with the breeze. The letters, painted in fading gold, spelled out words that had long ago lost their brilliance, yet their meaning remained unmistakable, antiques and curiosities. Something about the sign seemed almost alive, inviting, as if it had been waiting for her all these years. With a slow exhale, she reached for the door handle, and it opened with a soft creak that echoed through the quiet street inside. The air smelled of old wood, wax polish, and the faint, dusty perfume of forgotten years. The light was dim, filtered through yellowed glass windows, falling in gentle golden shafts across the uneven floorboards. Shelves lined the walls, packed with objects of every shape and size. Small figurines whose faces had worn smooth with time, books with spines cracked and letters faded, glass bottles filled with colored powders that shimmered faintly in the subdued light. But it was not these things that captured her attention. Her gaze fell upon the masks. They were everywhere, perched on shelves, hanging from hooks, even resting in open boxes on the floor. Wooden masks with delicate carvings, porcelain masks with painted expressions frozen in time. Silver masks that reflected the dim light like fragments of moonlight caught in metal. Some were grotesque, others serene, and yet all seemed to hum with a quiet presence, as though each had witnessed countless secrets whispered in the dark. Noira felt a strange resonance in her chest, a tugging that made her heart beat slightly faster. Yet without alarm, she moved slowly among them, letting her fingers hover just above their surfaces, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of dust and shadow. Her eyes lingered on one mask in particular, a piece wrapped in faded silk. Its covering was soft to the touch, worn thin by age and time, yet beneath it, the mask seemed to hum faintly, vibrating with a presence that drew her forward. She knelt slightly, her fingers trembling with anticipation, and lifted the silk away. The mask beneath was unpainted, smooth and featureless, yet it felt alive somehow, as though it waited for her recognition. It was not carved into a smile or a frown. It did not show joy or sorrow. Instead, it seemed to reflect something deeper, something hidden yet intimate, like the quiet stirrings of a heart left unspoken. Noira held it carefully, cradling it as one would a fragile bird. The air around her seemed to thicken, drawing in a soft hum that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. She could hear it in her ears, a faint, almost imperceptible vibration, like the echo of a distant memory brushing against the present. She felt, with a certainty that was more instinct than thought, that the mask had chosen her, that in some unspoken way, it had waited for this very moment. She looked around the shop, and though the other masks seemed ordinary now, the one in her hands was extraordinary. Its smooth, pale surface reflected the dim light with a softness that was almost human. And as she studied it, she could swear she felt a pulse beneath her fingers, subtle and insistent. She traced a fingertip along its curve, and a warmth spread through her hand, creeping up her arm and settling gently against her chest. For a moment, she felt as though the mask were whispering to her, not with words, but with a language made entirely of feeling, a resonance of emotion, of hidden truths, of thoughts left unspoken. Noira's breath caught, and she took a step back, holding the mask against her chest. The shop around her seemed to blur, the edges of the shelves softening, the shadows folding into one another, leaving only her and the mask suspended in a golden, breathing light. She felt a gentle wave of melancholy pass over her, not entirely unpleasant, followed by a flicker of curiosity, then a warmth that felt like reassurance. The mask did not force her to confront anything she did not wish to see. It simply revealed what was already there, quietly, patiently, as if it understood the fragile rhythms of a heart still learning to trust itself. Time passed in an unmeasured way. Noira did not notice the shadows lengthening outside the windows or the quiet creak of the floorboards beneath her feet. She only noticed the mask, the pulse of emotion it seemed to emit, and the way it made her own feelings feel less lonely, less fragmented. She felt connected to something vast, yet intimate, a presence that was both ancient and immediate. It was as though the mask held within it the essence of every secret sorrow, every hidden joy, every fleeting hope and unspoken fear that humans carried. Yet it did not judge. It merely held these things, as one might hold a fragile flame, and offered them back to her in a way that felt tender and true. Eventually, Noira placed the mask gently on a wooden stand near the center of the room, where a shaft of moonlight fell upon it. She studied it for a long time, noting the way its surface seemed to shift subtly under the light, reflecting not her face, but the quiet swell of her own inner world. She realized then that the mask was not meant for concealment, but for revelation. It was a mirror of feelings, a vessel of the unseen, and through it, she could perceive the hidden threads of human emotion in a way she had never experienced before. The shopkeeper appeared silently from a shadowed corner, a thin, elderly man with a gentle, knowing smile and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of years he had not needed to explain. He did not speak immediately, only observed Noira with a quiet attentiveness. When he did finally speak, his voice was soft, like the rustle of old pages, and carried no surprise, no question, only acknowledgement. "You found the one that waits for you," he said simply, his eyes resting on the mask as if it, too, was listening. "They are not all meant for everyone. Some wait lifetimes to be recognized." Noira looked at him, the mask still cradled in her hands. How does it work?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, afraid to break the delicate tension that seemed to hum between them. The shopkeeper's smile deepened, though it remained enigmatic. "It does not show what the world can see. It reveals what lies beneath: joy, sorrow, longing, the things you hide even from yourself. And it does so gently, never harshly. But remember this: what it reveals is only a reflection, a whisper. What you choose to do with that knowledge is entirely yours." Noira nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She felt a subtle shift inside herself, as if a curtain she had not known was drawn tight had been eased aside. For the first time in a long while, she felt the possibility of understanding herself in ways beyond thought or words. She wondered what it would be like to wear the mask, to let it reveal her hidden layers, her secret emotions, the small tremors of heart and mind that usually remained buried. There was fear, naturally, the fear of confronting what lay unseen, but it was tempered by an unexpected sense of peace, a quiet encouragement that perhaps some truths were ready to be met, and that not all revelations brought pain. Ours are perhaps only moments passed in this quiet communion. Noira found herself speaking softly to the mask, as one might speak to an old friend. She told it of fleeting worries, of tiny hopes tucked away in corners of her life, of the loneliness she sometimes felt even in a crowd. The mask remained silent, yet she felt a response in the shift of warmth beneath her fingers, in the gentle rhythm that seemed to echo her own heart. It was a conversation without words, a language of feeling, delicate and profound. Finally, she set the mask back on its stand and rose to leave. The night outside awaited, unchanged, yet subtly different, as if it had listened to. The shopkeeper did not offer to follow or accompany her. He simply watched with the same quiet acknowledgement. Noira stepped back into the moonlit street, the door closing softly behind her, leaving a faint echo that lingered like a sigh dot as she walked home. The mask's presence lingered in her mind like a faint, persistent melody. She could not yet fully understand it, nor did she need to. It had awakened a part of her that had been quietly resting, waiting for recognition. And in that awakening, there was a sense of gentle wonder, a realization that some beauty exists not in what is shown, but in what is quietly held, unseen, yet profoundly present. Noira returned to her apartment, the quiet of the night surrounding her like a soft cloak. She placed the mask carefully on a table near her window, where the moonlight fell in silver ribbons. She lingered there for a moment, studying it, feeling the hum of its silent presence. And as she did, she understood something new, that the unseen, the hidden, the whispered feelings that dwell quietly in the soul are not things to be feared or concealed. They are threads of life, delicate and luminous, waiting for someone to notice them, to hold them with care, and to see the beauty they quietly contain. She sat in the moonlight, eyes fixed on the mask, and for the first time in many long nights, she felt fully present, not merely in the world she could see, but in the hidden landscape of her own heart, in the quiet corners where feeling and thought entwined. It was there, in the unseen and unspoken, that she found a soft, unfolding beauty, a truth that needed no words, only recognition, only gentle witnessing. And in that quiet revelation, she felt a connection not only to herself, but to all the hidden stories that lay waiting softly in the world around her. The first whisper. Back in her quiet workshop, Noira moved with deliberate care, placing the mask on the table before her. The room was bathed in the gentle glow of candlelight, the flames casting long, dancing shadows across the walls lined with threads, sketches, and small trinkets she had collected over the years. The faint scent of beeswax mingled with the lingering perfume of dried flowers she had pressed in old journals, creating a warmth that felt like home. Tonight, the world beyond the window seemed to exist only as a soft backdrop, the streets silent, the moon hanging pale and distant. Watching Noira's fingers lingered over the smooth, she could feel the subtle energy it carried, not harsh or electric, but gentle and insistent, like a heartbeat beneath her own. Carefully, she brushed away the lingering dust, her movements slow, almost reverent, as though each speck removed was a whisper of time she had been privileged to witness. The texture beneath her fingertips was cool, yet it carried a faint warmth, subtle and alive, a presence she could feel threading into her own awareness. And then it began. At first, it was so faint she almost thought it was the flicker of a candle or the quiet sigh of the night outside. A whisper, soft and elusive, like the murmur of silk brushing against skin. She turned her head, searching the shadows of the workshop, but there was nothing, no one. Yet the sound persisted, rising gently and then fading, as though it breathed with its own rhythm. It was a voice without form, neither male nor female, young nor old. It was merely a resonance, a tone that seemed to echo inside her chest and behind her eyes. Her curiosity, that quiet, steady flame that had always guided her, flared. She lifted the mask, holding it in both hands, as though it were something fragile and precious. The whisper became clearer, more insistent, as if responding to her attention. And then, almost instinctively, she placed it against her face. The world shifted. Time seemed to slow, stretching and bending around her. Candle flames wavered in elongated arcs, shadows drifting lazily across the walls, as though they too had grown aware of something new. The air around her shimmered faintly, and she felt the faint pulse of emotion rising, swelling, surrounding her like a gentle tide. It was not her own emotion she felt first, but the echoes of the room, the memory of it, and the trace of all who had ever touched such objects, who had breathed in these quiet moments before. Then she noticed the subtle glow of feelings around her. They were like colorless ribbons at first, faint and almost invisible, twisting and flowing in delicate currents. A sadness, pale and misty, drifted through the corner of the room like morning fog curling across a field. A kindness followed it, warm and golden, spreading around her like sunlight spilling through a window pane. Fear hovered quietly near the far wall, trembling but small, hesitant. Joy shimmered like silver dust, brief and fleeting, brushing against the edges of candlelight. All these feelings existed together, each separate yet intertwined. A tapestry she could feel more than see. Noira's heart swelled in awe. She removed the mask briefly, pressing it to her chest as though holding a fragile truth against her heart. Her breathing was uneven, not from fear, but from wonder. She realized she could perceive the world in a way she had never imagined, seeing not only surfaces, but the currents of hidden emotion that flowed beneath them. The whisper continued, now softer, like the rustle of leaves just outside her window, but it carried meaning in its resonance. It was not words, exactly, but understanding. A knowing that brushed gently across her mind and filled the hollow spaces she had long kept untouched. Tentatively, she placed the mask back upon her face. This time, she let herself linger in the sensation, feeling the subtle vibrancy of the emotions swirling around her grow stronger, more intimate. Each feeling was distinct, a sharp pang of loneliness here, a soft sigh of longing there. She could sense the tenderness that hid behind stern words, the laughter that lingered even when silence fell. She felt her own joy mingling with these threads, her own sorrow echoing faintly through the currents. The mask did not merely reveal, connected, weaving together the silent, unseen world of hearts and souls into a living tapestry around her. It was intoxicating, yet gentle. Noira's senses stretched, her awareness expanding without strain. She reached out her hands, and though she could not touch these ribbons of feeling, she sensed them brushing past her fingertips, caressing, acknowledging, present in their quiet honesty. Some feelings made her chest ache softly, others made her eyes warm. Each one was alive, yet not threatening. Each one was a reminder that the world was not only what was visible, but also what lingered in hidden corners, quietly shaping lives. Shaping the air she breathed, tear traced a line down her cheek, not of sadness, but of recognition. She understood, in that quiet moment, that much of life existed unseen. Like the gentle movements of currents beneath a still lake, people carried depths within them, and sometimes those depths were too fragile to be named, too tender to be shown. The mask gave her the gift of seeing, of touching these hidden places without disturbing their integrity. It offered her insight, not judgment, revealing beauty and vulnerability alike, a soft mirror to the quiet soul of the world. She lingered in the mask's embrace, allowing the gentle whisper to guide her attention. She felt memories that were not her own echoes of long-forgotten laughter, the ache of farewell, the tentative bloom of hope after loss. She understood that these were fragments, impressions, not burdens to carry, but threads to observe and honor. Her own heart thrummed in tandem, and she marveled at the subtle harmony that could exist between the inner world and the outer, between the self and the unseen tapestry of emotion surrounding all life. Eventually, she removed the mask once more, pressing it to her chest, as though to anchor herself to the present. Her breathing slowed, and she sat back on the worn chair, candlelight flickering across her face and the mask before her. Her eyes shimmered with awe, and her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization of what she had just experienced. The world had shifted, but only slightly, revealing a layer that had always been present, waiting for someone gentle enough to notice. The whisper lingered still, soft and persistent, as though inviting her to explore further, to see deeper. Noira understood then that the mask was not merely a tool or a curiosity. It was a companion in discovery, a guide through the uncharted landscape of emotion and hidden truth. She realized that the gift it offered was also a responsibility. The awareness of others' inner lives was delicate, not to be exploited or judged, but honored with care, with compassion, with quiet reverence. She rose and moved to the window, holding the mask against the pale glow of the moon. Outside, the streets were empty, silvered in soft light. Yet in her mind, she could sense the currents of life flowing unseen. A mother whispering to a child, a young man tracing letters he could not speak aloud, an old woman tending a garden and humming softly to herself. Each existence carried its own quiet weight, its own secret beauty, and through the mask, Noira could feel it all without encroaching, without breaking the fragile shell of individuality. Hours seemed to pass unnoticed. She alternated between wearing the mask and simply observing it, learning the rhythm of its whisper, the gentle cadence of revelation. She discovered that some feelings were easier to sense than others, that joy and sorrow flowed with different intensity, that fear and hope could intertwine in the same space. She began to notice her own emotions differently, to how her heart held fragments of memory and longing, how subtle shifts in mood could ripple outward, unnoticed by the world, yet reflected back through the mask. By the time the candle had burned low, Noira felt a quiet exhaustion settle into her limbs. But it was not unpleasant. It was the gentle fatigue of someone who had seen too much beauty at once, the tender weight of a heart expanded by revelation. She placed the mask carefully back on the table, brushing her fingers lightly over its surface, as one might trace the outline of a cherished thought. She leaned back in her chair, eyes half closed, listening to the whisper, now faint, now nearly silent, but still present a reminder that the unseen world of emotion was vast, ever-flowing and patient in that silence. She understood something profound, that to see the hidden currents of feeling was not to dominate them, but to bear witness, to hold them with gentle attention. The mask had offered her the first whisper of this truth, and she felt a quiet gratitude that went beyond words. The night outside continued its gentle vigil, and within the workshop, candlelight flickered, shadows wavered, and a young woman sat quietly, her heart open to the tender, unseen world, ready to learn more, to feel more, to discover the beauty that lay just beneath the surface of all things. Noira allowed herself to drift into the quiet hum of thought and feeling, understanding that this was only the beginning. The mask had spoken its first whisper, and she had listened. The tapestry of emotion, of hidden truths and unspoken dreams, stretched endlessly around her, waiting patiently for her presence, her recognition, her care. And she knew, in that deep, tender knowing, that she would return to it time and again, to explore the gentle, luminous world that had been hidden all along, whispering softly, inviting her to see the unseen. Faces beneath the calm. The next evening arrived, wrapped in a gentle, misty twilight, the sun having faded into a soft wash of lavender and rose over the city's rooftops. Noira felt a quiet anticipation stirring within her chest, a tender flutter that urged her to step beyond the familiar walls of her workshop. The mask rested carefully in her bag, cushioned by layers of soft cloth, yet she felt its subtle pulse even through the fabric, a quiet heartbeat that called her toward the world outside. Tonight, she would leave the safety of candlelight and shadowed rooms. Tonight, she would bring the gift of the mask into the bustling, living streets of the town she had always known, yet never truly seen. She dressed with deliberate care, selecting a long, flowing coat of muted teal that swayed softly with her movements, its fabric catching the dying light of evening. Her hair, long and black, fell in smooth waves across her shoulders, gently lifted by the soft breeze that drifted in from the open window. As she stepped outside, the air was cool and fragrant, carrying the subtle scent of baked bread from a nearby bakery, the earthy aroma of damp earth, and the faint, sweet trace of flowers lining the alleyways. The city felt alive in a new way, as though it too had been holding its breath, waiting for her to notice what lay beneath its familiar surface. The marketplace was already stirring, the muted chatter of merchants setting up their stalls, blending with the clatter of wooden carts and the laughter of children, chasing one another between tables of produce. Lanterns had been strung along the walkways, their warm light creating pockets of brightness that shimmered like captured fireflies. People moved through the space with casual familiarity, exchanging greetings, offering smiles, bartering over fruits and cloth. Oblivious to the deeper layers of emotion weaving quietly beneath each gesture, Noira paused at the entrance, taking a deep breath and reaching into her bag. Her fingers brushed the smooth surface of the mask, and she felt the familiar hum of gentle anticipation rising through her chest. With a soft exhale, she lifted it and placed it against her face. The world shifted immediately. Colors of feeling began to bloom around the people in the marketplace, subtle yet undeniable. Like threads of light weaving through shadow, a young man laughed heartily as he counted coins. But through the mask, Noira saw the muted gray of solitude hiding beneath his broad grin, the quiet ache of longing for connection tucked behind his eyes. A woman arranged her fresh vegetables, smiling politely at passers-by. Yet a pale blue mist of sadness clung to her shoulders, a trace of grief she carried alone. Even the children who ran and shouted with gleeful abandon radiated small tremors of fear, tiny streaks of uncertainty flickering through the golden brightness of their joy. Each person carried a mixture of warmth and sorrow, laughter and unspoken longing, hope and quiet ache. The marketplace became a tapestry of hidden truths, a living painting of the human soul's gentle complexity. Noira moved slowly among them, careful not to disturb the fragile currents she now sensed. Every interaction, no matter how trivial, revealed layers beneath the calm exterior. She observed a merchant handing over a bundle of herbs to a customer, the surface smile polite and bright, but beneath it, she felt the warm, trembling pulse of exhaustion, the soft gray tendrils of worry about debts and deadlines curling around his heart. A girl selling flowers offered hers with a timid bow, and the mask revealed a flutter of hope, tangled with fear, the hope that someone would notice her, the fear of rejection lingering quietly in her chest. She found a quiet bench at the edge of the market, shaded by the broad leaves of a tree that caught the lantern light in golden sparks. Sitting there, she allowed herself to simply observe, to let the mask's gentle vision reveal the currents flowing beneath each ordinary face. She realized with awe that every smile, every casual gesture, every exchanged word carried a hidden dimension, a depth of feeling that often went unnoticed. The beauty of it was in its subtlety, the invisible threads that connected people, the quiet acts of care and courage that never made themselves known to the world. As she sat, she felt the whisper of the mask brush against her mind again, soft and insistent. It was not a voice in the ordinary sense, but a quiet resonance that suggested understanding, empathy, recognition. The whisper told her not only what the emotions were, but also their nature, how grief could exist alongside love, how longing could coexist with contentment, how fear often carried the seeds of courage. She understood that these hidden truths were not burdens, but aspects of life's intricate, delicate balance. A child tripped near the edge of a stall, and a man stooped quickly to help, brushing the dirt from the small hands, and offering a gentle smile. Through the mask, Noira felt the warmth of his kindness ripple outward, mingling with a faint shadow of weariness, a reminder that even small acts of care carried weight and meaning. Nearby, a pair of women spoke in hushed tones, their laughter soft but interwoven with subtle threads of worry and anticipation. Each interaction became a lesson in empathy, a quiet demonstration of the complexities that lived beneath ordinary. Appearances, Noira's own heart responded in tandem with the emotions she perceived. She felt tenderness and sorrow, excitement and anxiety, weaving together inside her like living threads, a subtle resonance that made her chest ache in a sweet, unhurried rhythm. She began to notice how her presence alone seemed to harmonize with the currents around her, how her own calm and gentle awareness allowed the hidden feelings of others to surface without fear. The mask was not simply revealing, it was creating a space for recognition, a quiet dialogue of understanding between her and the world. Time seemed to stretch in this suspended state. She remained on the bench, watching, feeling, listening. She observed a man who fed crumbs to a stray bird, his fingers trembling slightly, a shadow of loneliness lingering beneath the softness of his action. A young woman offered a coin to another, her gesture wrapped in quiet compassion. Yet she bore a subtle gray mist of exhaustion in her shoulders, a hidden tension no one else noticed. Each revelation filled Noira with a profound sense of gratitude and humility, gratitude for the opportunity to witness such tender truths, humility at the vastness of what lay unseen in the lives of others. The whisper of the mask guided her attention gently, urging her to move beyond mere observation. She felt compelled to reflect on her own emotions, her own hidden places, and the subtle ways she interacted with the world. She realized that empathy was not merely understanding others, but also honoring the delicate resonance of her own feelings, and recognizing that the currents of emotion she sensed were a shared human experience, one that bound all lives together in quiet, intricate harmony. A group of musicians played near the center of the market, their melodies light and lilting. Children danced to the rhythm, laughing and spinning, their joy bright and untamed. Yet the mask revealed the delicate undertones, the young musicians' nervous anticipation, the shadow of fear behind the dancers' carefree expressions, the unspoken longing in the gaze of the mother watching from the edge of the crowd. Noira allowed herself to feel the entirety of the scene, the interweaving of light and shadow, laughter and sorrow, movement and stillness. It was overwhelming and tender, and she welcomed it with open heart. Hours seemed to pass without notice, the marketplace shifting as twilight deepened into night, lanterns glowing more brightly, shadows thickening and softening in rhythm with the candle-like lights. Noira felt her own pulse settle into harmony with the currents she observed. She no longer felt like an outsider peering into hidden worlds. She was a participant in a quiet communion, a witness to the invisible textures of emotion that ran beneath ordinary life. Each ripple of feeling, each subtle note of joy or sorrow, became a soft lesson in patience, kindness, and understanding. Eventually, she rose from the bench, letting her eyes linger on the people around her one last time before retreating toward the quiet streets that led home. She carried with her the soft resonance of all she had seen, the golden warmth of hidden kindness, the pale gray of quiet sorrow, the delicate threads of hope intertwined with fear. She understood more deeply than ever that each soul carried its own hidden ache, its own unspoken beauty, and that the gift of recognition was itself an act of care, gentle and transformative. The mask hummed faintly as she walked, attuned to the subtle shifts of emotion even in the empty streets. She realized that what she had experienced in the marketplace was only a fraction of the vast unseen world of feeling that existed around her, and yet even this glimpse was profound, leaving her heart both tender and strong, attuned to the quiet rhythms of empathy, understanding, and gentle truth. When she returned to her workshop, the night air carrying the faint scent of dew and earth, she set the mask down carefully, pressing her fingertips to its smooth surface with reverence. She felt a soft ache of longing to return, to continue learning, to explore more deeply the currents of emotion that lay beneath the surface of life. The whisper lingered still, faint but present, like a promise that the world's quiet truths would continue to reveal themselves to her, patiently and without demand. Noira sat by the window, gazing out at the pale moonlight spilling over the rooftops, reflecting on the lessons of the evening. She understood now that faces could conceal entire universes of feeling, that the calm exterior of a smile could hide sorrow, hope, longing, or quiet courage. And she also understood that the act of witnessing, of observing these hidden currents with care and gentle attention, was a sacred responsibility, one that required humility, patience, and an open heart. The mask rested on the table before her, glowing faintly in the moonlight, as though reflecting the vast tapestry of emotion she had glimpsed in the marketplace. And Noira, in the quiet embrace of her workshop, felt a gentle certainty that her journey with the mask had only just begun. Each whisper, each unseen thread of feeling, would guide her toward deeper understanding, toward empathy, refined not by words, but by presence, patience, and the tender recognition of life's hidden beauty. In the quiet of that night, she allowed herself to rest, her thoughts drifting among the luminous currents she had felt, her heart open to the subtle symphony of human emotion that flowed endlessly, unseen yet profoundly present. And in that stillness, Noira understood that to see beneath the calm, to hear the whispers of the unseen, was to touch something sacred, a quiet truth that existed in the tender ache and radiant beauty of every soul. The mirror of shadows. The night settled over the city like a slow, velvet curtain, deep and unbroken except for the faint glow of lanterns from distant streets and the soft silver of moonlight spilling through Noira's workshop window. The air was still, carrying the subtle scent of rain that had long since passed, leaving behind the earthy aroma of damp stone and wood. It was a quiet night, the kind that invited reflection, a kind that coaxed one inward to meet the whispers of thought and feeling that were too often ignored during the bustle of the day. Noira stood before the tall, old mirror in her workshop, its frame darkened with age and carved with delicate floral patterns worn smooth by decades of hands brushing across it. The glass reflected not only her figure, but also the room around her, the cluttered table of threads and trinkets, the faint glimmer of candlelight on scattered sketches, the mask resting gently in the center. Tonight, she felt drawn to the mirror in a way she had not before, a quiet insistence that something important awaited her there. She picked up the mask carefully, holding it as though it were a fragile secret, and lifted it to her face. The familiar hum rose instantly, a soft vibration against her skin, warming her cheeks and settling over her mind like a gentle tide. Unlike the previous nights, when the mask revealed the hidden emotions of the world around her, tonight it seemed to turn inward, as if inviting her to look not outward, but within. For a long moment, she hesitated, her breath caught between curiosity and the natural unease of facing herself so directly. Then, slowly, deliberately, she placed the mask fully against her face. The reflection in the glass shifted almost imperceptibly at first, like a ripple across still water, and then colors began to bloom around her features. They were soft, ethereal, and unlike anything she had seen in the marketplace. A gentle amber glowed in the spaces around her eyes and chest, warm and tender, carrying a sense of longing she had often felt but never fully acknowledged. A faint, misty blue lingered at the edges of her reflection, subtle but unmistakable, the quiet residue of sorrow, of nights spent alone, of silent wishes whispered into the dark. And beneath it all, a warm gold shimmered softly around her hands and heart, the color of love given freely, both to others and quietly to herself. Noira's heart trembled at the sight. She had always thought of herself as careful, restrained, as someone who carried her emotions beneath a calm surface. But the mask revealed the richness of what lay beneath, the hidden tapestry of her inner world, delicate and vivid, complex and unashamed. She realized that the mask was not a tool for concealment, nor an instrument to hide the fragile truths of the soul. Instead, it was a mirror not of faces, but of feeling, of essence, of what was unseen yet profoundly alive. The whisper she had come to recognize rose again, faint at first, like the murmur of distant water. But now it swelled into something richer, more harmonious, a melody of subtle notes that wrapped around her mind and heart with soft insistence. It was not a voice speaking in words, but a song of understanding, a resonance that seemed to accept everything within her without judgment. The amber of longing, the blue of sorrow, the gold of love, they all swirled together in quiet harmony, each shade acknowledged, each hue welcomed. Noira's hands trembled slightly as she pressed them to the smooth surface of the mask, feeling the pulse of its gentle energy. It was as though the mask was breathing with her, sharing the rhythm of her heart, echoing her emotions and amplifying their presence in the space around her. She felt a warmth rise in her chest, soft and steady, carrying a sense of reassurance she had never known before. To see her own feelings reflected back in such vivid, honest colors was at once exhilarating and humbling. She studied her reflection closely, noticing how the mask revealed not only the visible aspects of her emotions, but also the subtle nuances she had long ignored. The amber of longing carried with it a quiet yearning for understanding, for connection, for experiences she had yet to live fully. The faint blue of sorrow was not a weight to bear, but a gentle reminder of her capacity for sensitivity, for empathy, for depth of feeling. And the warm gold of love was not boastful or loud, but patient and enduring, a quiet strength that had guided her in ways she had scarcely acknowledged. The melody of the whisper grew richer, threading itself through her consciousness like a soft ribbon of light. It seemed to suggest something profound, that to embrace all shades of herself, the longing, the sorrow, the love, was not only natural but essential. The mask was a teacher, not in the way of instruction, but in the subtle, patient way of revelation. It allowed her to witness her own interior landscape with gentleness, to see without judgment, to recognize the inherent beauty in all aspects of her being. Tears formed in her eyes, unbidden but welcome, tracing paths down her cheeks as she leaned closer to the mirror. She realized that for so long she had hidden from parts of herself, fearing their vulnerability, fearing their intensity. Yet now, with the mask against her face, she could see clearly that each emotion, no matter how fleeting, fragile, or complicated, was a vital thread in the fabric of who she was. The mask did not conceal these truths. It revealed them, offering a sanctuary in which they could exist safely, observed and honored. Noira reached up to her reflection, her fingertips brushing the smooth surface of the mask in unison with the mirrored image. She felt an almost tangible connection between herself and the reflection, a sense of dialogue without words. The melody of the whisper seemed to respond to her touch, rising and falling in cadence with her breath, weaving a delicate harmony that resonated deep within her chest. She realized that the mask's gift was not simply the revelation of unseen colors, but the call to embrace them fully, to allow herself to live with authenticity and awareness, to recognize the beauty in every shade of her soul. Minutes, or perhaps hours, passed in this quiet communion. The room around her, lit only by the soft flicker of candlelight, seemed to fade into insignificance, leaving only the luminous presence of her reflection and the resonant melody of the mask's whisper. She began to feel the interconnectedness of her emotions, the way longing, sorrow, and love intertwined within her heart, shaping her thoughts, guiding her actions, and coloring her perception of the world. She understood that these shades were not burdens to bear, nor flaws to hide, but essential elements of the intricate, fragile beauty of life. The whisper shifted again, subtle and insistent, encouraging her to look even deeper. Noira closed her eyes briefly, feeling the resonance of the mask pulse softly against her face. She thought of her past moments of quiet grief, of the nights she had spent in solitude, of the small acts of love and kindness she had given and received without recognition. She realized that each experience, each subtle feeling, had contributed to the person she had become, being capable of empathy, reflection, and deep awareness. The mask had illuminated not only her emotions, but also the depth and richness of her own soul, inviting her to accept herself fully in all her complexity. When she opened her eyes again, the reflection in the mirror seemed to shimmer faintly, the colors of her emotions glowing with gentle intensity. The amber of longing was steady, the blue of sorrow delicate and tender, the gold of love warm and enduring. She felt a profound sense of peace, a quiet alignment between her inner world and her outward presence. The mask, far from hiding her, had become a bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the private depths of her soul and the surface she shared with the world. Noira removed the mask slowly, pressing it once more to her chest. The hum of its energy persisted, faint but present, as if carrying the echoes of the melody, the resonance of the colors, the soft affirmation that she had been seen, not by another, but by herself. She understood that the mask was a mirror, not of appearances, but of essence, and that its purpose was not concealment, but revelation, not separation, but integration. She rose from the chair and moved toward the window, letting the night air drift softly through the room, carrying with it the faint scent of earth and dew. The city lay quiet beneath the moon, yet she could feel the echoes of human emotion stretching across the streets, threads of longing, sorrow, and love woven through every life she had glimpsed. The mask had shown her the power of witnessing these currents without fear or judgment, of embracing them with tenderness and understanding. Noira allowed herself to breathe deeply, feeling the gentle rhythm of her own heart, the resonance of the mask still lingering against her chest. She understood that the journey with the mask was only beginning, that each night, each encounter, each quiet reflection would reveal more layers of herself and the world around her. And she felt a quiet certainty that this revelation, the unveiling of the unseen, the acknowledgement of all shades within herself, was a gift, a melody she would carry with her, soft and enduring, into the life she lived beyond the mirror and the candlelight. As the night deepened, she sat once more before the mirror, the mask resting beside her, and allowed the quiet melody of the whisper to linger in the room. She did not need to speak, to act, or to name the feelings she now understood. It was enough to be present, to witness, to accept, and to let the unseen colors of her soul glow gently, freely, as they always had. The amber of longing, the blue of sorrow, the gold of love, all were hers to hold, to honor, and to integrate into the tender, luminous tapestry of her being. And in that still, sacred space, Noira realized something profound, that to see the unseen within oneself was to find a quiet sanctuary, a place where all shades of feeling could exist without fear, without shame, without concealment. The mask was no longer merely an object. It was a guide, a companion, a mirror of the soul, and through it, she had discovered the extraordinary beauty in the ordinary, the sacred in the hidden, and the profound truth that all parts of oneself, every whisper, every shade were worthy of recognition, acceptance, and love. The garden of reflected light. The night was gentle, wrapped in a soft silver glow, as if the moon itself had exhaled a quiet breath over the city. Noira walked slowly through the winding streets, her coat brushing softly against her legs, her hair catching the faint glimmer of starlight. The air was cool and fragrant with the lingering scent of evening blooms and damp earth, carrying a stillness that seemed to hush the world into attentive silence. Somewhere deep within her chest, the hum of the mask lingered faintly, even though it rested carefully in her bag. wrapped in the cloth she had used to carry it. Tonight, she did not wear it. Tonight, she would bring it into a garden she had long loved, but seldom visited. A place where shadows and light played together with subtle grace, and where the world's quiet truths could speak without interruption. The garden gate, wrought iron and delicate with curling vines, welcomed her with a soft creak. She stepped through, and the air seemed to shimmer, a delicate pulse threading through the leaves, flowers, and stone paths. The moonlight fell in silver ribbons across the garden, tracing the contours of petals, casting long, gentle shadows of the trees and benches scattered throughout. She walked barefoot along a narrow stone path, her fingers brushing lightly against the tops of tall grasses and blooms, feeling the cool dew that had settled there overnight. There was a serenity here she had never fully appreciated, a quiet vibrancy that made even the smallest rustle of leaf or movement of insect feel significant, part of a delicate, interconnected whole. She found a stone bench beneath an ancient flowering tree, its branches heavy with blooms that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Noira set the mask down gently upon the bench, its smooth surface catching the silver glow and reflecting it in a soft, pale shimmer. She paused, her hands lingering over the mask as if it were a fragile memory, an intimate secret. Around her, the flowers seemed to respond, their petals glowing with subtle inner colors that were invisible by daylight. She realized, as her eyes adjusted, that each flower carried a hue unique and fleeting shades that seemed to whisper of hidden feelings, memories, and moments long since past. A rose glimmered with soft amber, warm and tender, like a memory of joy so delicate it could have been lost in a heartbeat. A violet shimmered pale blue, a trace of sorrow folded quietly into the depth of its petals. A cluster of lilies glowed faint gold, echoing moments of love and generosity that had been given and received in silence. Each bloom carried within it an essence of the hidden world she had glimpsed through the mask yet. Now it existed independently, a reflection of the quiet, unspoken truths that reside in hearts and lives alike. No, Ira breathed deeply, letting the stillness wash over her, letting the luminous garden fill her vision and pulse through her senses. She felt as though she had stepped into a space between worlds, a liminal place where the unseen currents of life were rendered visible in light and color. The whispers that had accompanied the mask through streets and workshops were present here too, but softened, diffused into a gentle harmony. They were no longer urgent or insistent, no longer a chorus of other hearts and hidden emotions. They were her own whispers now, the quiet cadence of her inner being, resonating in tandem with the glowing blooms around her. Slowly, she reached for the mask again, lifting it in both hands with reverence. She pressed it lightly to her chest, feeling the faint vibration of its presence as a gentle pulse against her heart. She realized that the mask had guided her here, to this garden, not to reveal others' feelings tonight, but to teach her to witness her own. The luminous petals, each a miniature echo of hidden truths, mirrored the quiet currents that ran within her own heart. Longing, hope, sorrow, and love all danced softly in the same subtle symphony she had glimpsed through the mask. She placed the mask upon the stone bench once more, stepping back to watch it under the moonlight. A breeze lifted gently, stirring the petals, making them shimmer more brightly, as if acknowledging her presence. She watched as the mask seemed to vibrate slightly in response, a soft hum that resonated with the quiet harmony of the garden. And then, with the gentlest exhale, the night wind lifted the mask from the stone bench. It floated, weightless, as if carried by invisible threads of light drifting upward into the pale sky. The surface of the mask shimmered as it rose, catching starlight and moonlight alike, and gradually it dissolved into a scattering of silver points, like starlight scattering across the night. Noira watched it vanish completely, a soft smile touching her lips, feeling neither loss nor regret, only a profound sense of completion and peace for the first time. She felt the whispers settle into absolute stillness, not silence, but a deep, harmonious resonance that filled her chest and mind with calm. She realized that she did not need the mask anymore to feel or perceive the unseen currents within herself. The lessons it had offered, the revelations it had carried, had become part of her. She could sense the quiet amber of longing, the faint blue of sorrow, the warm gold of love within her own being, flowing and intertwining naturally, no longer hidden, no longer something to be unveiled by an external object. The garden itself seemed to affirm this realization, every flower glowing more vividly, as though sharing in her newfound understanding. Noira sat on the soft grass beside the stone bench, her hands resting lightly on her knees, and let the night embrace her fully. She closed her eyes, feeling the gentle hum of life in the soil beneath her, the whisper of leaves overhead, the subtle pulse of wind brushing against her skin. She felt the alignment of herself with the universe's quiet rhythms, the acknowledgement of her own hidden feelings, and the acceptance of all shades within her heart. Every thought that had lingered in shadow, every unspoken wish, every fragment of hope and sorrow which seemed to settle gently into place, recognized and welcomed, neither burden nor blemish. The garden around her became a mirror of her inner world, a luminous reflection of the truths she had come to understand. Petals glimmered softly, as if breathing, stems swayed gently in quiet rhythm with her heartbeat, and the air itself carried a subtle glow, delicate as the light of distant stars. She realized that this night, this place, was not only a sanctuary, but also a threshold, passage from reliance on the mask's revelation toward the inner recognition that all unseen feelings, all quiet shades of the soul, could be honored and cherished naturally. From within, she let her hands hover over the flowers, feeling the energy of their luminous presence. Each bloom seemed to pulse gently, responding to her awareness with a soft resonance, a delicate affirmation of her connectedness with the world. The whispers that had once carried the voices of others' hidden emotions had softened into something purely her own, a quiet peace, a gentle acceptance, a subtle melody of the soul at rest. Noira felt tears well in her eyes, not from sadness, but from a deep, tender awe at the beauty and complexity of life's unseen layers, the richness of feeling that exists beneath the surface, waiting for recognition, waiting for understanding. Time passed without measurement, minutes, hours, she could not tell, nor did it matter. The moon rose higher in the sky, spilling silver light across the garden, and the stars shimmered faintly above, as though each one had a story to share in the silent, luminous night. Noira sat among the glowing blooms, allowing herself to exist fully in the quiet of her own heart, in the resonance of the garden, in the gentle aftermath of the mask's final gift, she felt a profound connection not only to herself, but to the delicate web of life, to the hidden currents of emotion and memory that flowed through every being, every petal, every thread of light and shadow. Finally, as dawn approached in faint, silvery whispers on the horizon, Noira rose from the grass and took one last look at the stone bench where the mask had rested. The flowers glimmered with soft light, and the garden seemed to breathe gently around her, acknowledging her presence and her understanding. She walked slowly along the winding path, feeling the harmony of her own heart in sync with the world's quiet rhythms. There was no sadness in leaving the mask behind, only gratitude, only reverence, only a deep, abiding peace that settled into her chest like the softest of songs as she stepped through the garden gate and into the awakening streets. Noira carried the quiet radiance of the night within her. She felt the subtle amber of longing, the pale blue of sorrow, and the warm gold of love flowing naturally. Luminous threads she could nurture, honor, and cherish without hesitation. The mask had dissolved into starlight, yet its gift remained entirely within her. She realized that the journey was no longer about revelation from without, but recognition from within, and acceptance of her own unseen colors, her own whispered truths, and the gentle beauty of her quietly illuminated soul. Noira paused on the cobblestone street, letting the cool morning wind lift her hair, and felt a soft, lasting melody resonate inside her heart. The world remained the same, yet subtly transformed. Each street corner, each shadow, each glimmer of light held the quiet possibility of recognition, understanding, and peace. She walked on slowly, carrying the luminous resonance of the garden, the whispers of her own quiet heart, and the tender knowledge that the unseen, the hidden, the delicate currents of feeling within herself and others were not to be feared or concealed. They were to be seen, honored, and held softly, like starlight cradled in the hand. And in that gentle, luminous morning, Noira understood fully that the mask's final lesson had been given, that all the colors of the unseen, the amber of longing, the blue of sorrow, the gold of love, existed not as burdens, but as luminous gifts, shimmering quietly within, waiting only to be recognized, accepted, and carried forward in peace. The silence beneath the smile, dawn arrived softly over the quiet streets, spilling a pale, golden light that brushed gently across rooftops and cobblestones. Noira walked slowly, her steps measured and unhurried, the cool morning air carrying the subtle sense of dew earth and the faint warmth of lingering night blossoms. She returned to the antique shop she had first wandered in 2 weeks before, the small bell above the door chiming softly as she entered. The air inside was familiar and still, carrying the faint scent of aged wood, dried herbs, and the delicate perfume of time itself. Everything was exactly as she had left it. Yet something had shifted within her, quietly, irrevocably, as if the world had subtly aligned with the calm she now carried. The shelves of masks loomed around her, silent and patient, each one a testament to stories long forgotten, faces long hidden. Porcelain, wood, silver, and lacquered masks rested on hooks and stands. Their features varied, some delicate and serene, others jagged and expressive, but tonight they seemed to watch without judgment, their presence neither imposing nor distant. Noira did not feel compelled to reach for any of them. She understood now that the gift of revelation the masks offered had been received, and its lessons were complete. They were mirrors of emotion, guides through hidden currents, but the final understanding resided not in them, but in her own awareness, in the quiet reflection she had nurtured over nights of discovery and introspection. Her own face was bare, unmasked, serene. She stood in the center of the shop, the first rays of morning light streaming through gauzy curtains and falling softly across her features, illuminating the gentle curve of her cheek, the soft sweep of her long black hair, and the calm radiance of her eyes. There was no need for concealment. The mask was no longer necessary. Its purpose had been to reveal, and she had seen. She had seen the unseen both within herself and within the world around her, and the recognition had brought a quiet peace that settled like warm honey into the spaces of her heart. Noira walked slowly among the shelves, her fingers brushing lightly against the masks as she passed. Each one seemed to pulse faintly, not with energy or magic, but with the gentle echo of presence, as if acknowledging her understanding. She felt a wave of gratitude for the lessons they had imparted, not through force or direction, but through patient revelation, subtle whisperings, and quiet illumination. She had learned that the unseen emotions in the world, the longing, sorrow, love, fear, hope, were not burdens nor shadows to fear, but threads of a delicate tapestry weaving lives together in silent, profound harmony. She reached the table where the first mask had rested, the one wrapped in faded silk that had called to her the night she first wandered into the shop. She paused, her fingers hovering just above the smooth surface. It was beautiful, still and silent, but she did not need to touch it. Its purpose had been fulfilled. The whispers that had risen from it, the soft, intangible melodies of human emotion, had now transformed into a gentle calm within her own heart. They were no longer voices outside herself, echoing through the rooms she inhabited. They were internalized, integrated, a quiet resonance of understanding and acceptance. Noira settled onto a worn wooden chair by the window, the morning light pooling around her like a soft, golden blanket. She let her hands rest loosely on her lap, feeling the rhythm of her own breathing, the subtle beat of her heart, and the quiet pulse of awareness that flowed through her. She thought of the marketplace, of the streets, of the garden under the moon, and the myriad moments in between the faces she had witnessed, the flowers that glimmered with hidden colors, the countless unseen threads of feeling that connected life in its silent, intricate harmony. She allowed herself to remember, but without attachment. There was no need for longing, no need for melancholy. The memories were gentle, luminous, and complete, like a melody resolved into its final, harmonious note. She closed her eyes, and in that darkness behind her lids, she could see the soft amber of longing, the faint blue of sorrow, and the warm gold of love, the very colors she had glimpsed through the mask and in the luminous garden, blended now into her own inner light. They were no longer separate, no longer external revelations. but integral parts of herself, acknowledged and embraced. The whisper that had guided her for so many nights now softened into silence, not absence, but calm. The silence carried with it a sense of completeness, a serenity that was neither fleeting nor fragile, but enduring. A quiet anchor for the awareness she had cultivated. Outside the window, the city began to stir. A merchant swept the street before his shop. A bird flitted across a roof, and a gentle wind rustled the leaves of a nearby tree. Noira observed these small movements without expectation or judgment, noticing the interplay of light, shadow, and subtle motion with the same gentle attentiveness she had learned through the mask. She understood now that life, in all its ordinary simplicity, carried hidden harmonies, quiet revelations, and fleeting moments of beauty that required only awareness to witness. It was in the attentive observation, the quiet presence, that the richness of life revealed itself, unobstructed by pretense, concealment, or fear. Her soft smile deepened as she reflected on the journey she had undertaken, the nights of wonder, the marketplaces full of hidden currents, the garden alive with reflected light, and the intimate revelation of her own soul in the mirror. Each experience had been a layer, a step toward understanding the invisible forces that shape both human hearts and the world they inhabit. She felt a profound gratitude for every whisper, every subtle illumination, every lesson rendered in quiet color and sound. They had led her to this moment, serene, unmasked, fully present in the morning's gentle embrace. Noira's hands rose lightly to rest on the table beside her, fingers grazing the surfaces of other masks, but she did not lift them. The masks remained as they always had, silent companions, witnesses to the passage of time, guardians of stories untold. But the lesson of the unseen, the revelation of hidden currents, was no longer dependent on objects outside herself. The awareness, the empathy, the capacity to honor the subtle harmonies of life all resided firmly within her. She could carry it forward into every quiet corner of her life, every human interaction, every silent moment between heartbeats. The morning light shifted, casting soft shadows across the shelves, highlighting the textures of carved wood and painted porcelain, tracing delicate curves of metal and lacquer. Noira observed the masks again, not as tools or curiosities, but as companions whose purpose had been fulfilled in her own awakening. Each mask seemed to glow faintly under the sunlight, as if affirming the harmony that now resided within her. She let her gaze rest on them for a long moment, a quiet acknowledgement passing between observer and observeda. Silent thank you for guidance, for revelation, for the patient unfolding of truth. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling softly, allowing herself to simply be. The city outside continued to awaken, but inside the shop, time felt suspended. The golden light pooled around her, highlighting the serene calm of her features, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the soft sweep of hair that framed her face. She did not need to speak, to act, to perform. Presence alone was enough. Awareness alone was enough. Acceptance alone was enough. The whispers she had followed for so long had become quiet peace, a gentle affirmation that all was complete, all was understood, and all was gently held in the luminous equilibrium she had cultivated. Noira closed her eyes once more, allowing the warmth of morning, the gentle resonance of self-awareness, and the quiet harmony of the shop to enfold her. She felt the amber of longing as a tender awareness of possibility, the faint blue of sorrow as a soft reflection of compassion and depth, the warm gold of love as a steadfast current that connected her to herself and to the world around her. The masks around her no longer called for attention, for they had served their purpose. The silence beneath the smile she now wore was not emptiness, but fullness, a luminous, gentle integration of everything she had witnessed, everything she had felt, everything she had become. The shop seemed to breathe along with her, a living companion in stillness and light. Dust motes drifted lazily through the sunbeams, catching tiny glimmers of radiance, and the quiet ticking of an old clock marked the gentle passage of time, unnoticed yet precise. Noira felt her own pulse in tandem with this rhythm, a subtle, continuous echo that affirmed her presence in the world, her awareness of its hidden harmonies, and the serene understanding she now carried. She opened her eyes at last, gazing around the shop with a soft smile unmasked beneath the golden morning glow. The masks, the light, the silence, and the gentle hum of life within her own heart coalesced into a single, luminous awareness. She did not need to seek further revelations, for she had already found them in herself, in the quiet currents of emotion that connected all beings, and in the tender, luminous recognition that life's unseen beauty is always present, waiting only for patient, attentive eyes and a heart willing to honor it. Noira rose from the chair and walked slowly to the window, letting the soft light touch her face fully. She felt a profound serenity, a warm, steady calm that radiated from her center and flowed outward, gently filling the shop and, somehow, the world beyond. She understood that her journey with the masks had ended not in acquisition or possession, but in recognition, acceptance, and gentle integration. The whispers of others, the colors of hidden emotion, the luminous threads of life, they had all become part of her awareness, part of her being, and she carried them forward with tender care and quiet joy. The morning deepened, golden and clear, and Noira remained by the window for a long while, her soft smile unmasked, serene, and luminous. The antique shop, once a place of mystery and curiosity, had become a sanctuary of quiet understanding. She was at peace not because the world had changed, but because she had changed. The whispers she once followed had dissolved into gentle harmony, leaving only the serene truth of self-awareness, the quiet acceptance of all shades within herself, and the luminous, tender recognition of life's hidden beauty. And in that calm, radiant space, Noira simply existed, fully present, her heart open, her soul aware, and her being aligned with the quiet, luminous currents of the world she had learned to see, honor, and carry with gentle care. Breathe in slowly and let the air fill you with calm. Exhale and release every trace of tension. Feel your body soften, your mind settle, and your heart rest. The world is quiet, The night is still, and peace surrounds you. Let yourself be fully present in this moment, calm, gentle, and serene. Breathe once more, deeply and slowly, and carry this quiet, peaceful feeling with you as everything softly comes to rest.